That ending was actually kind of wild. Like, what? Wow. I have a newfound respect for Zanac after this episode. Wow. To see Ainz so pissed, like he was furious, is crazy. They really did him like that. They really did him like that. Yo. Alright, enough of that. Let's just get straight in and talk about this episode of Overlord today, because I thought it was a really good episode, actually. Even before that scene, I thought we had some really good moments. So, without further ado, let's get into and talk about Overlord Season 4, Episode 10 today. Wow. So our episode begins where the last one left off, with Ainz watching over the battle that just took place. And he's kind of shook, actually. He's like, wait a minute. Why did this armor just show up in the kingdom all of a sudden? Like, that doesn't make sense at all. Like, this shouldn't even be in this world, like I was saying. Is that a player? And he immediately is caught off guard by this. But, of course, he has to downplay it, and he says it's all a part of my plan. And I'm never going to get tired of this in Overlord. How all the NPCs always say to him, like, of course it was your plan. Your Majesty, Lord Ainz. Like, of course it was. We couldn't even fathom it. It'll never get old. And they make the excuse for him that, yeah, so you sent in a weaker amount of troops, actually, so we could draw out the one in red, huh? Brilliant, Lord Ainz. Absolutely brilliant. And he's like, yes, that's exactly what I was doing. Now, Albedo reveals that he's from the Red Drop, one of the 3 adamantite teams that are from the kingdom, and that he is one of the top adventurers around. And, like I said, they thought that Ainz tried to draw him out, so they said to him, like, we need swift and great action right now, Ainz. Like, we need to go take him out right this second. And Ainz agrees that, yes, let's go wipe them out now. But because of his little, I guess you could say, what he agreed upon with Pestonia and Rubedo in the last episode, he's trying to take a bit of a different approach to this. He instead wants to just attack the kingdom right away to completely wipe them out. But in the process, a little bit of people from this village will actually be able to escape. Kind of placating Pestonia and Rubedo a little bit, because he is allowing some people to live, technically. And he declares that we will advance towards the royal capital, and we will destroy everything in our path. And that's how our episode begins today. And it's here we transition to a scene with Zanac and Princess Renner, actually, where they're having a discussion about the battlefield, and he's asking for her opinion on this, like, where has the Sorcerer Kingdom been? How have they gone unnoticed so far? And she starts explaining that they've slowly but surely been encroaching upon us from the north, trying to box us in so we cannot get support from any side, which they are doing, and they're doing quite well, to be honest. The kingdom is in very dire straits, and he asks her, like, how have their forces gone unnoticed for so long? She explains to him that the only way this is possible is if it was from some of the nobles within their own kingdom, helping the Sorcerer Kingdom. And she deduces that it's probably Marquis Revan's area that they're using. And obviously, Zanac is shook at this. He doesn't want to believe that, but it makes perfect sense, because the area that they've slowly taken over, the Sorcerer Kingdom, used to be his domain. So if they have him hostage, or like, we all know what's going on with that, if they've taken over that area, they can absolutely box in the kingdom and slowly surround them. And Zanac is a little shook at this. And Zanac asks Renner, like, what would you do in this situation? And she says that if things continue as they're going, it's going to be an all-out fight in the capital itself. And Zanac agrees with her. And she asks him, like, what do you plan to do? Do you plan to surrender? And he says, no, we have to fight until the last breath. We can't give up. We're most definitely not going to win, but we're going to continue fighting, and I'm going to stand on the front lines, leading the men as royalty. And she says that in this moment, he's become a true king, which After this episode, I kind of agree with that. I think he definitely has grown on me a bit after this episode. And it's here that we transition to an interesting scene, actually, where we see the whole adventurer group, the Blue Roses, trying to go meet with the leader of the Drop of Red, actually. It's quite an interesting thing. Two very prominent teams. And the leader, Lachius, is a little hesitant to bring the whole squad with her, in a way. She seems very nervous to have everyone meet with the leader of Drop of Red. But the twins actually deduce something like, isn't it kind of weird? Like, what request would really require them to call both of our groups, the Drop of Red and the Blue Rose? Like, what kind of request would require that? That's very interesting. And it turns out that Lachius is actually related to the leader of Drop of Red. So they're kind of curious to meet him at the same time because of that as well. So they end up getting to the meeting spot, and it's kind of shady right off the bat. It's a hotel. So if they weren't related, I would be thinking something else is going on, if you know what I mean. But right before they go in there, Lachius actually turns back around to the rest of the group and says, this is a fair warning. My uncle's the type of person that makes most people grimace. And when we open the door and see him, he is exactly what I expected. He's just sitting there, women hanging all off him, fucking shirtless, just sitting there like, oh, hey, what's up, guys? What's going on? And of course, they're exasperated immediately, like, yo, could you put some clothes on if we're coming to a meeting? And he's just like, yo, at least we're not meeting in bed. Which I'm like, whoa, that's a weird thing to say to a family member, but okay. And Evil Eye is exasperated immediately, like, damn. And I thought he was going to be a hero. I thought he was a hero. And she immediately tells the other girls, scram, get out of here. We got real important shit to do. They defy her, and she just uses magic to get him out of there. Rightfully so, just get the hell out. We got shit to do. And it's here, after they get those whores out of there, that the Blue Rose group sense another presence coming. And we get another adventurer group in there. And they are intimidating, and right off the bat, I'm thinking to myself like, yo, is that Clementine from season 1? But no, it's not. I believe that was her name, at least. Don't crucify me in the comments. It's been a long time. I was like, I think that's her brother right away. I think. Like I said, I don't know. I think it is. They look the same. But they come in immediately, and I'm like, yo, this is kind of wild. And Azoth, who's the leader of the Red Drop, actually deduces that they're from the Thorocracy, and it's revealed that they're the Black Scriptures. The elite group of heroes from the Thorocracy. And they get immediately down to business and say, members of Blue Rose, leader of Red Drop, we've come to recruit you into our group. And Azoth quickly makes a counter proposition to him saying, how about you help us fight against the Sorcerer King? Which he refuses. And he kind of insists that they answer his question like, so, how about you guys join us? And they all decline. And they can't really push it any further. They're not going to force them to join. So they leave it at that for now. So once they leave, the Blue Rose group actually stay back and ask Azoth. I always mess his name up. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do in this fight against the Sorcerer King? And he says, I'm going to stay here because the Sorcerer King is absolutely going to find his way to the capital. So I'm going to stay here and try to fight him off. He knows he can't win. He even says to himself, like, there's no way I could beat him. But if it's just me alone, I can get the hell out of here, not have to worry about other people as the kingdom burns to the ground. Very pessimistic way of thinking about it, but very truthfully, he can't beat them. And as he leaves, he says, all right, guys, I'm going to go unload in the other room real quick, where all the whores are. And that's how his scene ends. And it's here that we get my favorite scene of the whole episode, where they're on the battlefield about to prepare for war. The Kingdom and the Sorcerer Kingdom. And Zanac actually decides, I'm going to go try to speak with the Sorcerer King. I'm going to go try to speak with Ainz right now. He goes out here alone. And seeing this, Ainz decides, I'm going to go speak with him. And I'm going to do it alone too. He came by himself, I'm going to come by myself. So they go out there and they hold the discussion amongst themselves. And Zanac immediately asks Ainz, why won't you accept our surrender? Why are you doing something so cruel? And Ainz tells him, because there's no merit in it for me. I want to sacrifice your kingdom to show the world that they should not mess with the Sorcerer Kingdom. To strike fear into people. We will leave your kingdom destroyed for hundreds, if not thousands of years to show the world that they should fear the Sorcerer Kingdom. But Zanac actually rebuttals with a very good comment. He asks Ainz, why? There must be other ways for your majesty to spread his prestige across the world. Why are you so close-minded? And Ainz has to think on this for a second. That's a very good rebuttal. Zanac asked him, what's your goal? And Ainz really ponders that for a second. He thinks, what's my goal? It seems so easy, but complicated at the same time. My ultimate goal is to find happiness. In the end, isn't that the ultimate goal of all creatures? To find happiness? Zanac actually gets a little mad about this. He says, so it's alright for you to take happiness from other people for your own benefit? And Ainz literally looks at him like, of course. If it's for the happiness of the people I treasure, I don't care about what happens to anyone else. And then he asks Zanac, if your people could find happiness based on the suffering of another country alone, would you tell your people to give up on that happiness? And it's a thought-provoking thing, does your happiness justify you taking away someone else's happiness? It's a tricky question. Zanac actually slams on the table and says that logic is too extreme, which it really is. It's a very extreme way of thinking, but that's just how Ainz has become. And he even asks Ainz, is there not a way someone of your intelligence could have gone down a different path, done things differently? And Ainz, again, ponders that and thinks to himself, there were multiple ways I could have gone. But isn't it right to chase the happiness that's in front of you if it's so easily obtainable? Ainz actually gives a pretty funny analogy in this situation, too. He says, the goddess of fortune is bald behind. Which is quite funny. And Ainz says, well, that is the reason I must make your people suffer. I will make your people suffer for the happiness of the people I treasure. Does my answer satisfy you? Obviously no, but Zanac understands in this situation, it's the duty of a leader to lead their country in a right direction to find happiness. I understand your reason for refusing our surrender. There's really nothing else I can do. Now it's time for Ainz to ask him a question. He says, where's the sword that Gazoff used before? Who is in possession of this sword now? I see that you yourself are wearing his armor. Who has his sword? And Zanac actually replies, a man named Brain Unglis is currently in possession of that sword, but he's not on the battlefield. He is in the royal palace right now. And Ainz literally tells him, oh, that's a relief. Then it doesn't matter what kind of magic I use to wipe out your forces if he's not here. And Zanac says, we don't plan to lose, but try to kill us as nicely as possible. And Ainz says, since we become acquainted, I'll try to kill you as gently as possible. And I'm just like, wow. They both understand the situation. And right before he leaves, he asks Ainz one more question, saying, did you or one of your men kill my older brother in the previous war? And Ainz thinks for a second. He says, it was probably one of my men that did it. And satisfied with hearing that, Zanac decides to ride off. And Ainz kind of has a newfound respect for him in a way. He even calls him a dauntless man. Even I feel that way after watching this episode. Wow, he really took this in stride. He didn't beg for his life or anything. He knew what was going to happen, and he stood up to it. It's very commendable, honestly. Not many would do that, as we're about to see. And as he gets back to his forces, they beg him like, Your Majesty, please tell us, what did he say? What did the Sorcerer King say? And Zanac just flat out tells them the truth, saying he plans to massacre everyone here. He plans to kill every single person here. And he goes back and talks to his second in command, and he even says the conversation went exactly as I expected it to. And they start going over their battle formations for what it's worth, saying how we really don't have much we can do. Most of our commanders were wiped out in that last fight. This is all we have right here. And it's in this scene that we see a bunch of his men actually run into the tent to kind of do a coup, in a way. They're begging him, please surrender to the Sorcerer King. We don't want to die. But Zanac knows there's no surrender. You can't surrender. The only way they leave this battlefield alive is if they can defeat him, which he knows is impossible. And I believe his men do too, secretly, but they still cling on to that hope. And they say that we can survive if we bring him your head. And Zanac did not go down like a bitch. He decides, I am royalty. I am the leader of this nation. If you want to take me down, come at me. If you want my neck, come get it. And he fought them to the end. And that is very commendable. I personally have a newfound respect for him as a character after that. He did not go down like a bitch. So those nobles actually come and approach Ainz after the fact. And they're begging for their lives, saying, we will pledge our allegiance to you, O great Sorcerer King. And they bring him a token, a bag. And Ainz opens the bag, and Zanac's head is in it. And Ainz is uncharacteristically quiet in this situation. And he tells them, yes, you've all done good. And they're begging for their lives. And Ainz like, I'll let you keep your lives. And then he says, I'm going to send you all to the Neuronist. Go send them there. And they're like, thank you, Lord Ainz, thank you. Not knowing how terrible of a fate that really is. That's worse than death. If you guys remember who that character is, that's crazy. They are not getting a good way out. And Ainz tells Aura in this situation that only allow them to die if they beg for their lives. But even if they beg for their lives, make them wait. Make it as painful as possible. Ainz is furious right now. He literally just had a heart-to-heart conversation with this guy. And in the same day, these fucking fools bring him his head. He is furious. And now he's completely uninterested in this battle. And he tells Kakaktus and Mara that wipe them all out. Kill every last person here. And that's how our episode ends. It's kind of wild, I really do have a newfound respect for Zanac after this episode. You cannot say he went out like a bitch whatsoever. He really did kind of go out like a real king to the bitter end. Even knowing the situation that was happening, he accepted it. And they really did him like that. These cowards really did him like that. That's wild to me. But with this episode, it's all but assured Ainz is going to make his way to the capital now. And once that happens, the kingdom's done. So, what do you guys think is going to happen? You think Ainz is going to take over the kingdom, or do you think an unexpected hiccup is going to occur? I'm not too sure. I'm on the fence. It could go either way. I feel like things are going a bit too smoothly right now, I definitely feel like something unexpected is going to happen. But you guys let me know in the comments what you think. And yeah, guys, we had a great episode of Overlord today. We really did. I'm very excited for next week's episode. We're almost done with this season. I can't wait to see what happens next. But until next time, guys, hope you have a great day, week, month, and year. And until then, deuces, and have a blessed day. I'll see you.